At UNESCO, we've been looking at the issue of artificial intelligence for the last few years. We've been looking at it from a scientific angle, from ethics perspective, the implications for culture and the implications for education. And we're very lucky to be able to welcome Professor Daniel Andler, who can look at the issue of artificial intelligence from all of those different angles. He is a mathematician and philosopher at the Sorbonne Université here in Paris. He looks at artificial intelligence and the importance of this field for human affairs and the role of philosophy. So thank you very much for joining us to speak about this issue. To start off with, your latest book, Artificial Intelligence, Human Intelligence, The Double Enigma, that explores the notions of artificial intelligence and human intelligence. This has implications for education, for what it means to learn, what is knowledge. And I just wanted to get your thoughts about what philosophical implications there are of the field of artificial intelligence on the concept of human intelligence.
Thank you for this question. It's a large topic. Maybe I could quickly remind ourselves that artificial intelligence was initially thought of an exploration of human intelligence. The two issues, how can we build artificial intelligence, and how can we understand human intelligence, were two faces of the same coin. So this is how artificial intelligence and cognitive science were born pretty much together. So what have we learned over 70 years of trying to advance our understanding and our technology on both sides, from both sides? Well, one thing is that human intelligence is much more complex and elusive than it was initially thought. To some extent, cognitive science has given up on the idea of human intelligence in the normative sense of being more or less intelligent. Cognitive science is interested in bringing to light our equipment as cognitive organisms compared to, say, dogs and cats and birds and so on. So what is our cognitive endowment? And cognitive science has tended to view this cognitive endowment as a suite of specialized competencies. And that fit pretty well with the project of artificial intelligence, which also was able to construct mechanical models of some of those specialized capacities that we humans have. But it turns out that human intelligence is more than those specialized capacities. We actually don't quite know what they are. We're still at the dawn of an understanding of human intelligence in this sort of wider sense. One thing that we have realized over those 70 years is that human intelligence is sometimes more like perception rather than logic. AI sort of put us on the track of logic. I mean, intelligence is essentially a form of extended logic. It turns out that a lot of human intelligence is more like perception. So that's something that we've learned, and that's really important. Another thing that we've learned is that certain things that seem to be very difficult for human intelligence are easy for AI, and conversely. So both the successes and the shortcomings or failures of AI in its attempt to reproduce human intelligence have taught us a lot and are still teaching us a lot about human intelligence.
When you say that human intelligence is linked to perception, does that differ then in terms of culture, the notion of human intelligence itself?
Well, yes, there has been speculation about certain cultures being more analytic and sort of therefore more of the reasoning, logical reasoning kind, and certain cultures being more holistic and therefore more perceptual. But I think that this is really superficial differences. I think it's a much more basic thing that all normal humans share this ability to use a sort of form of extended perception in order to grasp situations in a holistic way, organize it according to the basic principles of a Gestalt theory, rather than analyze, cut reality into small elementary pieces and see how they all fit together.
So of course generative AI has hit the world and the public awareness in the last couple of months. It's been in development for a long time, but it's gone mainstream. Millions of people are now using it in their daily lives, including students at different levels of education, whether that be secondary or higher and possibly even primary school. Now education systems take a long time to adapt. What should education systems be doing now to respond to the immediate issues? What should they be doing in the future in order to adapt to the changing reality that is being brought along with artificial intelligence?
Well, we should first of all, we should sort of make a difference between AI in general, which has been working towards, providing education with new tools for decades, and generative AI, which is a new thing, although the initial paper came out in 2017, which isn't such a long time ago. ChatGPT is not even a year old, and already there's a new word, generative AI. And I think we should be very careful about jumping on the wagon of ChatGPT and generative AI too quickly. I mean, it's a novel technology which is not at all fully understood and mastered even by those who invented it. And it's also, as was pointed out this morning by Stuart Russell in particular, it really isn't adapted for teaching. It's adapted for providing answers to difficult questions. So it's an automatic writer and talker, but it's not an automatic teacher. So clearly, at best, it can be used as a tool for teachers, and it's not at all obvious how to do it in a fruitful way. So I think everyone should be in the teaching profession, should be very careful about using ChatGPT and generative AI. On the other hand, it's clear that it's a really marvelous invention. It's a fun invention that people are using outside the classroom. So it should be expected that within the classroom it will be used. But I think, again, we should be extremely careful, and we should certainly not jump to the conclusion that we can now change the whole pedagogic process based on ChatGPT, or for that matter, on any form of AI for education.
So you as a researcher are coming at this issue as a mathematician and a philosopher looking at cognitive sciences. In your opinion, what more can higher education be doing to look at the different issues, the ethical issues, the psychological issues? How will the dawn of AI affect research, or how should it affect research so we fully understand the consequences?
Well, I think that's a very good question, Claire. I think, how should I put it? For the moment, education has not been on the top of the laundry list of cognitive scientists and philosophers especially. The philosophy of education used to be a very active, vibrant field decades ago, but it's fallen for various reasons that I don't fully understand myself, and it's not time to go into them anyway, into some sort of disrepute. So there are not many, I would say, active philosophers working on the philosophy of education. I think that's a very important input that we don't have when I say we, is we cognitive scientists. So I think that it would be an extremely interesting project to have not one center, but several research centers devoted to a multidisciplinary approach to new technologies in education.
You speak about being bilingual and approaching education without these new technologies and with these new technologies. Can you explain a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Yes, I mean, most of the time I just repeat things that people are familiar with, but this is a slightly off kind of proposal. My idea is the following. First of all, it's clear that we're going to be using ChatGPT, whether, you know, there are sounds of caution on the part of people like myself, or even Stuart Russell and others, just because it's just an irresistible call to use those apparently miraculous tools in order to try and compensate for the clear lacks and failures of the educational systems in general. So there's a tool, we want to use it. Let's see if we can use it intelligently. So I think it's quite normal and to be expected and to be encouraged that people, teachers and educationalists in general, explore the potential of ChatGPT in education. So in order to do that, in order to accumulate evidence and make comparative studies of how it works in this condition and that condition, in this sort of school and that sort of school, for that sort of age, for this sort of age, we just need to have a vibrant practice, experimental practice of education using those tools. That's important. It's also important because we want our students and our teachers to get a better understanding, an on-hand understanding of ChatGPT and AI in general. So for those reasons, we do want some of the pedagogic experience to be based on, or to at least make use of, these new tools. On the other hand, the danger of these new tools is that we don't know what their long-term effects are, and we want to preserve what standard education has certainly managed to foster, despite all the difficulties that we're familiar with. And we want students to keep their skills and not fall in the trap of having these tools dispense them with the effort which is an indispensable dimension of learning. You don't learn without some effort. So if we have tools who sort of deliver the solutions in place of the students will have an illusion of learning something, just as we have an illusion of learning Latin when we look at it. I took Latin and Greek in school because I'm an old guy. And of course, there was a temptation to look at those bilingual editions in order to translate a difficult piece of Greek or Latin. So you could do that once in a while. I mean, it's not a mortal sin, but if you're going to do only that, clearly you're not going to learn Latin or Greek. And I want to sort of generalize this argument to teaching in general in any form of any kind of discipline and format.
So from your perspective, do you think there could be long-term psychological implications if this technology is rolled out too quickly?
Well, of course, I don't know for sure, but I certainly suspect it might, and I would be really wary, because by the time, suppose we go full steam in ChatGPT, generative AI, and God knows what other instruments will come out in the next months and years. So we go full steam, and we raise a whole generation of students, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of students on this regime. And it turns out that it somehow perturbs some fundamental natural processes that are involved in pedagogy. Well, it'll be too late. It'll be what we call in French a génération sacrifiée. I don't know what the English is for that. And we can't afford to sacrifice an entire generation because we had the wrong idea about technology in education. So I think we have to be very prudent. We cannot possibly risk the fate of an entire generation by rushing into those technologies. But of course I don't know, and I think that the thing to do is to accumulate evidence, bring in, you know, the best cognitive psychologists, developmental psychologists, evolutionary anthropologists, all these sort of new sciences of human behavior that have been prospering for the last few decades. I think they should be brought to bear on this issue of technology in education.
So there are short-term policy initiatives that governments could put in place, and also a longer-term view. Education systems evolve very slowly. What advice would you give ministries of education on this topic?
Let me see.
A hard question, I'm sorry.
Hard question, hard question. Maybe two things. First of all, I think that governments should, and international organizations or authorities should absolutely make sure that platforms become interoperable. Interoperabilité,
interoperable.
Yeah, interoperable. That's something there's a movement to which my little study group at the Académie des Sciences Morales et Politiques does participate. We strongly believe that platforms should not have their proprietary language and procedures and algorithms that prevent people from moving from one platform to the other. People as individuals or initiatives in the educational sector or in other sectors as well. I think all of this should sort of be freely, all of this should be circulating freely, and that, of course, the private sector has a role to play, and this is not at all to try and prevent that a very important input, but they should not become owners of whatever they have created due to their tremendous strength and power of the technologies they're deploying. So I think that's one thing that governments could do. That's my advice. And the other thing is that I think that it would really be worth encouraging the formation of probably small number of institutes with the highest possible competencies and some teeth, some authority to either encourage or to discourage certain practices. I think we need a sense that, what used to be and is no longer probably the sort of strength and respect due to a certain kind of body of sages, I would say. And I think it'd be a very important thing to have such bodies, maybe one single body for the whole world. It probably is not a good idea, nor is it realistically possible, but a few in the world.
Professor Daniel Andler, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome, Claire. Thank you for your questions. Thank you very much.